Hello, my friends. Before we start today's episode, I want to give a shout out to my friend Angela Williamson, who is the founder of Volunteer Engagement Accelerator. Angela is a volunteer engagement and management consultant who designs and strengthens volunteer management systems that attract, engage, and retain people to fill your mission. Interested in working with her? Check out the show notes for her links. Now, on to today's episode.
Welcome to another episode of The Art of Volunteering. Today we have the exciting pleasure of having the executive director on with us, Leslie Holt. Leslie is the executive director of A Child's Light and is a former victims advocate and certified trauma specialist. Leslie is the force behind the success of A Child's Light and is responsible for the care and management of over 200 children receiving mental health treatment through A Child's Light, which serves Chester County, PA. So, welcome, Leslie. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Thank you so much, Stormy. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Leslie, I'm going to invite you to share about the why for A Child's Light, and I'm just going to give it to you to share.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, we would need a lot of time for that, but I'll try to condense this. So the why of A Child's Light is because to the point of what you're trying to do, which is promote volunteering. So I started volunteering at the Crime Victim Center. I don't know, close to 10 years ago. And then through volunteering, I then became an employee. And I worked there for approximately 5 years. And so, what I saw as a victim's advocate, unfortunately, is that even back then, systems, there were gaps. There were just gaps because, I mean, you can't expect any agency or even all of the agencies in Chester County to be able to fill every every need. It's just an impossibility. Just like A Child's Light can't fill every need. I, in my experience, at CVC, which was an incredible experience, I have to say. Um, I was in interviews with children who had been in just so horribly abused and talking to their families and doing all the things, going to hospitals with young women, well, with every age woman who had been sexually assaulted, had been raped. And so through those experiences, I unfortunately saw that as far as we've come in caring for children and women, the needle had not moved very much and still has not. I really, really hate to say that, but it's true. And so, but what I saw was that the gap that I saw that so needed to be filled was to get children, especially who had been seriously abused. They needed long term care and they needed a higher level of care. They needed seasoned um, mental health professionals who, and by seasoned, I mean that they, and this is no disrespect to anyone coming out of school, but there are certain things that you hear that are will keep you up at night, and I'm not even really sure that that's fair to do to someone, just fresh out of school to be working with that population. So, what through my experience as an advocate, I was lucky enough to meet incredible people, professionals, and so what I did was I started when I began crafting this, which I did with my daughter Lana. I started reaching out to therapists that I had met and said, "Listen, I'm going to do this. We're building a child's light, and would you partner with us at a child's light, and by partnering, that meant them graciously and generously accepting a lower fee than what they normally would do. And we're talking people that their entry level fee was at least $150. And do you know, Stormy, I only had one person, one therapist say to me, "No, Leslie, I can't, and I can't at this time because I have too many pro bono clients." And so that kind of speaks to how the therapists, they all agreed to take a lower fee because they knew how great the need was for these kids to be in long-term care after the horrible abuse that they had experienced. So, that's kind of the why as to how this all started, because I saw a need that really was not being filled because, as I said, not every there are gaps. There's gaps in everything, right? There's all kinds of gaps in life. And so this was one that, I saw for especially kids who were victims of sexual abuse, that I mean, they're going to need long-term care, and by that, I mean for the rest of their lives, in and out of therapy. And that's how it should be. Everyone should go in and out of therapy when they need it. And so, but what we wanted to do was to be able to ensure that kids that had experienced this, would be pretty much guaranteed that they would get a full year of, and it would be long-term, um, mental health support. And so that was our model, that we would endeavor to make sure that children, with the help of their families, which is sometimes a challenge, that we would be able to supply them with, a year full of, mental health sessions. So that's how this started.
It's amazing when you start volunteering and you see how great the need is.
It is. It's kind of daunting,
Mm.
actually. And so the thing is, what do you do? Do you because you see it, do you back away and just say, "Well, it's too much. There's too much." And but, my kind of my mentor, Peggy Guz, who I don't her. So Peggy Guz was the one of the founders of the Crime Victim Center, and she loved the starfish, the little starfish poem, or
Oh, I'm
I'm
not
not sure
familiar
what you
with
would
that.
call it.
Yeah, yeah.
About the little boy walking on the beach and he starts picking up starfish and throwing them back into the sea. And his dad or his grandfather says, "Well, why are you doing that? There's millions more starfish on the beach. You can't get to all of them." But the ones that he got to, you know, he saved them.
Right.
So it's kind of, and when an employee of CVC would leave, Peggy would give you a beautiful glass starfish, and along with that little poem, and that just totally resonated with me. And so, yeah, you're right. I can't get to every kid because there's a study that was just out, probably, I don't know, 9 months ago, from Children First, out of Philadelphia. In that report, it said that there are at least 23,000 kids just in Chester County alone in need of mental health support. So, yeah, at
Mm.
least, and those are the reported cases.
Right.
So when you think about that, that's pretty overwhelming. And so I guess, us at a child's life, we could look at that and just say, we can't get to all those kids, so why even put the effort in? But if it saves one kid, the the um the lifetime of um just suffering,
Right.
really, um, then we've done our job, right?
Now, when counseling happens, especially after trauma, it helps to prevent a lot of long-term outcomes, right? It
Yeah,
helps
for sure.
reduces, um, suicide, it helps reduce, substance abuse. Like, can you share a little bit to that, like, what that looks like?
Well, you know what? Let me tell you a story. This is an amazing story because it's an amazing little girl that I worked with, and so she had been sexually abused, and she had gone through the whole court experience, which is for a child, it is a nightmare.
Mm,
And but this little thing did it, and her family was not very hands-on about getting her the mental health services that she needed through um through the acute phase of her disclosing and going through court and all the rest of it. And I took it upon myself to make sure that she got to her her sessions with her therapist, and there was quite a bit of driving involved. And I would pick her up at one part of the county and drive her all the way to the far end of the county, and we did that once a week. And here is and she did incredibly well, and it totally made a difference in the trajectory of her life, because I met her when she was 8, and she is now almost 17, and we're still in touch all the
yeah.
time. um but here is the amazing thing about her participating in her therapy. There was a situation where she was beginning to be groomed
Mm,
again by a different man, and things started happening to her. And this was a child who would never told me that she would never have disclosed what happened to her. And after going to therapy and experiencing that and finding her own little voice, that when this started happening to her again, when she was about maybe 12 years old, um, she immediately spoke up. And what she did was she called me and she told me what was happening. And so it disrupted her family completely, but she didn't stop. She didn't stop. And so this man was ejected from the home, and this little girl has gone on to excel in school, um, doing all kinds of extracurricular things. She is just an amazing young woman with everything that she has gone through, and a lot of trauma besides what she experienced with the abuse. But she never, I'm absolutely convinced that without that year of treatment with the therapist and being able to find her voice, to find her self-confidence again, um, she never would have spoken up, and it would have happened to her again. And the statistics are so huge as to kids who are sexually abused when they're young are more likely to be abused again. because part of it, a big part of it, is that they don't speak up, and that's what the therapy gave her. She saw a trauma-informed therapist who was amazing, who was seasoned, and it changed this little girl's life, and now she excels,
Wow.
and that is, that's proof of concept right there, right? Um, and to this day, she just keeps doing better and better, and that was just Stormy, that was just a year of therapy, and if she ever wanted to go back, I certainly would encourage that and help her and give her rides or whatever.
Right.
But but I for right now, she's doing really well. She doesn't feel like she needs it. So it's when you think about it, the cost of getting these kids therapy outweighs the pitfalls that they can stumble upon, and then that's when, unfortunately, when we lose them,
Mm,
whether they go into, truancy or contact with law enforcement, or whatever the situation might be, or unfortunately, um using drugs and alcohol to self-medicate, and none of that was the genesis of their the reason why they were in that situation, and it doesn't take much to just kind of scratch the surface with most of these kids, and you find out that there's trauma underneath. So, and I just have another little story. Let me tell you this real quick. So we had uh an a sister agency. Their director was on the phone with juvenile probation. It was a meeting call, and this colleague mentioned um something about a child's light. I don't even know. So a police officer reached out to me and he said, "Hey, listen, we have this little girl. She is a minor. We don't want to press charges because who would want to press charges against a minor?" And he said, "So I wondered, I started thinking because of what you do, um, if you would do kind of a pilot program with us here in Coatesville." And I said, "Yeah, let me know." And he said, "Would you pay for her to get treatment, go to talk to a therapist, for just 12 visits?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." Because the reason that a 12-year-old is acting out is because she has trauma. And her trauma was that one of her parents had been poisoned with fentanyl and the other was incarcerated. She was living with a relative who really did not want this responsibility with this little girl, and so she kind of had no one.
right.
And, I said, "Absolutely, we would love to help in any way." And so we paid for her to do the 12 sessions, and, she has not had any, interaction with law enforcement since then.
Nice.
And we were able to, and the thing about a child's light is we have the flexibility to kind of craft the experience, their mental health journey experience, to every child that we encounter. So for this little girl, we sent her to someone who looked like her and someone who actually had juvenile probation background. So as soon as she met her therapist, they were right on the same page. And I think that that's um, a really huge factor in why a child's light's been successful, is because we can pivot to, if it's a child who is kind of shut down for whatever reason, and a lot of the kids that we work with are in foster care. and they've been in foster care for a long time, and they don't wanna talk. They're done. They've talked and nothing has changed in their lives, and so then, in a case like that, we can offer equine therapy to these kids. And that's we have so many experiences that with that it's totally changed a child's life. It completely changed them. And but it doesn't honestly, it doesn't seem to matter. I do love the magic of equine therapy, but it doesn't really seem to matter whether it's equine or talk or art or music therapy, all the different modalities that we can offer to kids and their families. Doesn't seem to matter so much the which they choose. It's the fact that they go consistently, and that there is a caring adult that believes them.
Right.
I think that that's what makes the difference
Wow.
in
Yeah.
changing their lives. And in some cases, saving their lives. We have so many kids now because, there are so many kids that, I'll just give you a statistic. 61% of kids in Pennsylvania report that they're clinically depressed,
Mm.
and they do not get any services. They don't get mental health treatment. Now, I personally believe that no matter what, every child should get free mental health treatment. I think that would talk about changing the fabric of our society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think that mental health treatment should be an afterthought and should be punitive. It should be because we can listen, adults, we can pick up the phone and ask for help. But these kids, that we keep them limited, and we do have young people. Um 13, 14, up to 18 years old, reach out to us and ask for therapy. They know they need it. And the parents aren't on board. Sometimes the parents are like, "No, I'm not going to drive you. You get there any way you can, but I'm out. I don't want anything to do with it." And maybe it's because they're part of the problem. But so if a child does that, yeah, we're gonna fund them to get therapy. But that's the thing, we look at it as though it's like a special thing to get mental health treatment. Every kid should get it. And it should be part of the school day curriculum in my view. I really think that post-COVID, I'm sorry, I'm just like going on and on.
You're
But
fine.
post-COVID, it's these kids are still not
Where they should be.
they're not, and it's
Yeah.
so sad.
So, would you say that this is your vision for the community you serve, is to have mental, wellness, mental, counseling available to all students? Is that like the big picture vision for a child's life?
Well, the big picture vision would to have a child's light be a national initiative
Mm, yeah.
that would because, I've talked to a few um uh state officials, and they're surprised, and they say, "Why is this not being adopted by Pennsylvania?"
Right.
And I'm not sure why. Well, you know why,
Yeah.
because we don't have the funding. That's what it'll be, that we don't have the funding. But, the thing is, we tell these kids that we want you to do this to be a better person, and that, and don't make mistakes as you're growing and learning, but that's all part of the process. And then when they fall down and they do something that might be pretty egregious, we don't really do that much to give them a hand up. And, so and then it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and especially for these kids, a lot of them, with a trauma background and a trauma history, and then again, they look like they're doing something wrong when sometimes things are just out of their
Under
control.
control. Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's my this should it should every child, I believe that every child should have free mental health services.
Mm, I like that vision. Right.
Just
Let's
a little one.
just
That's
a
just a
little
little
one, but, we're not just talking dreaming big here.
no,
Th
no,
This is awesome.
no.
Alright, let's shift a little bit. Let's come back to your volunteers that support, a child's life. So can you share, like, your your counselors are paid, so they're not volunteers.
Right.
So how do volunteers come alongside what you do? Because there's a lot of confidentiality, there's a lot of, clearances and all the things. So how do volunteers impact what you do?
Oh gosh, oh my gosh, the volunteers that we have are amazing. And the thing is, we just did a few weeks ago, we were sending out an appeal. And so we had a group of volunteers. They were kids, but the one that we did before that were kids and adults. Well, both of them were actually. Um, and you know, I try to tell the volunteers. So what they were doing, let me tell you. So what they were doing was they were addressing and stuffing envelopes so that we could mail out these appeals to the community. And that might seem like it's mundane and boring, and maybe it is. Maybe that is. But, you know, eh, that is how a nonprofit that does not get funding through state, federal, or county means. This is how we we survive is by these small, what might seem mundane gestures of generosity, really, because that's what it is. These people are coming together at a child's late to sit there and do this for us to try and raise funds. And I hope, and it does seem like with the groups that we had, that that they understand, that we're so appreciative, and they understand that this is a collective, um uh what's a good word for it?
Effort?
Yes, a collective effort. And the beauty of it, which always it makes me cry, Stormy, I'm such a baby. But, I walk into this room and I see these kids sitting at this table, and it's children, and I tell them this, that it's kids helping other kids. And I can't help it, I do, I cry when I thank them because it's so beautiful that they've taken, I don't 2 hours out of their month to help other kids who, and I just think that, and for the adults, the same thing, that you're actually doing something so concrete, because to help other kids, because when those funds come in, they go into the bank account and then they go right back out to a therapist. And so it's this just pure generosity of the the volunteers to take the time to do this. Um, and as far as clearances and all of those things, the board members, of course, have those. But the volunteers, they won't, because of the
They
way a child's life is structured, they'll never be around. I'm never around the kids, and so they won't be either. And that's another really wonderful thing about the volunteers because they're coming in to do something. Most people, they want to have contact with kids, that they just want to have contact with the kids. And I'm pretty protective. I'm
Yeah.
pretty protective of their confidentiality. Um, and so I probably would not be okay with that. And but the volunteers are fine with it.
That's
They,
awesome.
and there's I can't even say I can't even tell you how appreciative we are and I am that they take time out of their day, a Saturday in the summer, to come in and sit there. True, I try to ply them with lots of donuts, but but even still, it's pretty huge. And we're, knock wood, we're just so lucky that, to have people that understand how huge it is that these kids get the help they need.
Ah, I love it. Now, I also know that your volunteers help do, oh, it was a walk, awareness walk, right? Back in
Yeah,
May?
yeah.
Yeah, can you share a little bit about that? I had the pleasure of attending, so I want you to share.
Well, that was, I have to say that that was, so our board is, they're all volunteers,
Yeah.
and they put that walk together. And I have to say, I think that that was and maybe this isn't a good word to use, but it's my word. That had to have been the cutest walk, between the colors, between because this is a heavy subject, and then having the puppies there, it was a really, what I thought was a really uplifting event. And that was all done by volunteers, by our volunteer board. And the board is just, every one of them brings a different expertise to the board, but the one thing that they all have is a passion and a dedication to helping these kids. They're so amazingly supportive. And they help me with the boring things, not just the
The fun
fun
things.
party planning things. No, they help with paperwork and reporting and all of it. And yeah, no, it is really truly a joint effort.
It's amazing. I've enjoyed speaking with Harini about, her experiences as board chair and just love the mission.
Yes,
Oh,
well, Harini has, just been incredibly, like all of them, but Harini has been so incredibly with her time, and
Mm,
just sort of pulling me, because of her expertise, pulling the organization into 2025, and,
and beyond.
and yeah, yeah. I don't know what I'll do when it's time for her to step down, but, yeah,
We're gonna
she has
renew that term. We're gonna keep her going
forever. Well, I'll never let
forever.
her go. Yeah, she's amazing.
Okay, do do you have a blooper? This is it's supposed to be a fun question, but sometimes it's not fun because sometimes the situation is, something that didn't go as planned, and then many times from the things that don't go as planned, we learn so much more. Do you have one that you're able to share?
I do, and you're right, it's no, it's not fun.
Okay.
Um, but I think that it might be good for people to hear, because it kind of illuminates, eh, eh, a real problem. And so I'll tell you. So, we had a little girl refer to us. She was living with mom, um, in, like, a pretty desperate situation. Dad was incarcerated, and this little girl was being severely abused by the mom. And so, uh and she was 7 years old, and she was attempting suicide. at 7. And that's I know, it's you say to yourself, "How can that even be?" Because you remember yourself at 7. That those thoughts never even entered your mind. And so, but that's what this situation was, and so she was referred to us, and of course, we were of immediately, and we were able to get her into therapy in less than a week.
Wow.
And we yeah, we can do that a lot of times, which, the wait time now, I believe, it might be less than a year, but at the time, it was 2 years, and
Mm.
so but that's a whole whole 'nother thing, and thank heavens those days seem to be over. But anyway, she was referred to us. We got her into therapy, and she, attended 5 sessions. And in those 5 sessions, she had such well, the therapist that she was seeing was amazing, and the therapist, um, also had a domestic violence background. So she kind of stepped into this with this little girl, knowing exactly what was going on. So there was an attunement there and that's what I mean about us being able to craft the type of therapy that the kids are going to get. So, if they accept it. So the mom was the abuser. Little girl was trying to commit suicide, and the mom let the little girl complete 5 sessions, and then she stopped coming. And so the therapist reached out to me and said, "Hey, what's going on? We had sessions planned and it's a no-show." So I reached out to mom and had a conversation with her and I'm not kidding you, Stormy. I cajoled, I coddled, I pretty much did everything but beg for the mom to take this little girl back to therapy. And the mom said to me, "Well, I took her 5 times and she's still the same." And it's a moment like that, and I was explaining this to, a county official yesterday. Those are things that people don't ever see or hear about. You would never hear about this if I wasn't telling you probably. And what I wanted to do was to be able in a perfect world, I would have been able to pick up the phone and call a judge and say, "Can you please court order this mom to get this baby into therapy?" So the last that I heard about this child was she was locked out of the apartment. The mom locked her out. She's 8 now. Locked her out of the apartment on a snowy winter day. The little girl had no shoes on, had PJs on, and she was hiding in, a washroom. And a friend just, went to do her laundry and found the little girl. And she took her back to the apartment. Mom didn't wanna let her in, and she's 8. And, then when she did let the little girl into the apartment, she, berated her and was, cursing at her and using every derogatory term that she possibly could. And the friend had to say to the mom, "You need to stop this. You can't talk to her like this." And that was so I'm telling you that story because although eh, eh, the overwhelming amount of kids that do come to a child's light, they are the it's a the ending of those stories, at least with us, are amazing and they're so wonderful. But every once in a while, unfortunately, like in this situation, that didn't happen. And so that child is out there somewhere still being abused. And those are the situations that, and that was 3 years ago, and it still keeps me awake. I'm like, "Where is she? Is she okay? Is there any way that I can get to her, so that we can, I don't know, when she's 14 and she's able to, um get therapy herself, how do I get that message to her, you know? And so I know that that's not a fun blooper, but those are kind of the realities that kids are dealing with, and those kids are the ones who, that little girl, I have no doubt, without psychological intervention, will lead a troubled life. And so if she were, even if we could get her into therapy tomorrow, it would be a struggle, but she would be better. And it's just one of those, can't get to every one of them, but and that's the reality. And the reality is this is happening in Chester County. And that's only one case. That's only the one case that, came to that we heard about.
That you heard.
But
Right.
there's so many more.
Let me just ask, what do you learn from that? What changes in your world to help others?
Well, it just it I think that, and I always say this, that child therapy is really family therapy. And I think that, there needs to be more support for people, and a lot of the time, a lot of the parents that we see, they're single moms,
Okay.
and they're struggling. They're really struggling, and what I take from that is that the mom was the one who needed the therapy, really.
Right.
And we're not doing a very good job at reaching at-risk adults then. And the other thing that I learned is that we have been trying to do outreach as much as possible. We do once a month, we do a coffee with a cop. And I would love, love, love to have a presence in schools so that kids as young as 14, can reach out to us,
Mhm.
that they know about us. And, maybe they can't reach out at 8, but maybe
At
at
14, they
14
can if they're
when,
aware. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, not fun, but, that's kind of the world that I and the board members too, this is where we work, and it's sometimes not pretty. So, yeah, so it was really nice that the walk that they put together was so wonderful and happy and uplifting.
Very good. Now I have another question, and if you don't wanna answer it, you don't have to. Can you share your personal journey with this? With a child's light?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you
um,
mind?
no, I'll probably cry.
That's okay.
My beautiful daughter, our beautiful daughter, Lana, was, raped, um, by someone that she knew from the age of 14. And this person was 5 years older than she. Um, my husband and I were away for the night. This young man knew that. He had been in our house literally for years. Um, we had taken him on vacations. This is how well we thought that we knew, a predator. And so what he did was he, bought alcohol for Lana and for her friend, um, who were here at the house. And my husband and I knew that this boyfriend was at the he wasn't a boyfriend. Uh he was gay, and we knew that, he was going to spend the night, and we were fine with it. His family was fine with it. But this predator who was in right in our neighborhood, bought them both alcohol. They were 14 at the time, and encouraged them to drink, uh, got them completely drunk, um, took took the friend home. This was all so premeditated. Took
Mhm.
the friend home, came back, sneaked into our home, went up to Lana's bedroom and raped her.
Mm.
And she wasn't home alone. My son was here with her. He's a couple of years older, but this person knew our house so well that with my son being out back, he just came in another door and sneaked upstairs into her room because of course he knew where her room was.
Mm.
He had been coming here for literally like a decade.
Wow.
So, so Lana never said anything to my husband and myself. And because she thought because she was drinking that it was her fault. And and also I think that at 14, she really didn't know what to make of the whole thing. And so I think that the the shame and the embarrassment, um, she never said anything to us. And but what happened was then she started smoking pot and drinking. And this was a kid who was on honor roll. And my husband and I, after a year of this, and she wanted to go on an antidepressant. And we were like, what is going on here? This is not our happy little girl. And I did. I took her to every therapist that I possibly could, Stormy. I mean, anybody. And the thing is, she'd be okay for a little while, but there was something about it that we would leave, because of course I was driving her. She didn't have her license. And in my mom's intuition, I would think to myself, "No, they're not getting to it. I don't know what it is, but I know that they're not getting to it."
Mm.
And, because I could see it. I could see it on her face even. And, and at the time, there was not the trauma-informed perspective. Therapists didn't they were about changing your behavior, not trying to figure out why the behavior, right? So, I mean, now with with every child just about being seen by a therapist, and hopefully they're all trauma informed. Ours are at a
Mm.
child's like, I mean, we make sure that they are trauma informed just for this reason. Because you have to look at every kid, like what has happened to you, what's been done to you to make you it, it, uh, to
Express yourself this way.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, and that just was not the case back then. And so Lana started self-medicating. And she she self-medicated, and Tim and my husband and I just said something's wrong here. She needs to go to rehab. And that's when she disclosed. She disclosed 4 years after the incident, and that was 4 years of her taking on all the shame, the embarrassment, the fear of saying anything because what was he gonna do?
Mhm.
And, all of those, just, like, all that time for her to internalize that. in the meantime, she's self-medicating, and as anyone knows, that starts she's priming her brain to and as Vincent Folletti has perfectly illuminated in one of his papers, he is the scientist that developed the ACEs study. And he draws a direct correlation between sexual abuse and any type of chemical usage. And as Gabor Mate further illuminates that it's a solution. That is what that's people are looking for a solution to their psychological pain. And that is why they use. And that is why it's a term now that trauma is the gateway drug. It is. It's a gateway. Trauma is the gateway to so many horrible things in kids' lives. And so, Lana was, she also during this time where her immune system was uh, compromised, she contracted Lyme disease that when undiagnosed, because back in the day, people didn't even know really what Lyme disease was. And I took her to a million doctors, every doctor at the University of Pennsylvania, and they all went, I don't know. I have no idea what it is. Literally, doctors telling me, experts saying, we don't know what it is. And so it turned out that it was Lyme disease. And so she was in physical pain pretty much from the age of 16 to when she transitioned from here. And but so, she finished college. She came back from rehab and she was doing great. Finished college, did all the things. She had a great job as a vet nurse at the University of Pennsylvania, but she was still in physical pain. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is that people who have Lyme disease, they are in constant pain a lot of times. And so the one thing that does help them with their pain is methadone. And so, Lana was in pain. She was in a lot of pain. She was living in her own apartment and she said, "Listen, I can't. I'm in too much pain. Can I move home and bring the cats home and move back home?" And of course she did. So, she thought that she was getting methadone from someone that she kind of knew, and it was not methadone. It was a chemical called 3-methylfentanyl, which is literal poison. They don't test it on animals. They don't test it on anything because they know what the outcome will be. And that's what was delivered to our home. And so essentially she was murdered. And there was a trial, and the the person who brought it in his Jaguar, um, in the middle of the night. Yeah, he's incarcerated. He's in prison now and will be hopefully for 33 years. And yeah, but that's so, there's a lot to kind of dissect in this, in that, you don't know. You think you know a person, you think you know a kid, and then the kid grows up to being something that you a person that you wouldn't allow in your home, and we we were so used to this person that we didn't see that he was a predator. Right. And that he would actually be able to cause harm to someone in our family. And that was the genesis of why Lana started self-medicating.
Right.
And so that's, it's a something, a cautionary thing for every parent to know,
Mm.
and it's pretty damn scary to think that, you leave your home and that someone, in a very nice neighborhood in Chester County would sneak into your home and harm your child.
Mm.
That's pretty horrible and pretty eye-opening. And, and then also the part about, just thank God that things have changed for my grandchildren in the hope that if they ever wanted to talk to a therapist, that the therapist would immediately, um have that outlook,
Right.
the trauma-informed outlook and perspective, and would approach them right away, and, to try to uncover any trauma and to address that. And so we didn't experience that.
Right.
Um, and I think now, honestly, if all of that nightmare had happened now, I have no doubt that if I took Lana to a therapist, that would be the first thing that the therapist would say, because
Yeah.
she had all the classic signs. She was cutting, this behavior that was totally not like her, grades, going from being an honor student to really struggling in school. Those are all, as we know now, all classic signs of abuse. And, the thing is, it doesn't have to be long-term abuse. It doesn't have to be over and over and over. It can be one
Instant.
experience,
Yep.
one instance, and, depending upon the the personality of the child, in Lana's case, she was, just the kindest person. And, to have someone that she trusted, harm her, hurt her, literally hurt her,
Right.
uh, yeah, it changed her. It did. It changed her. And, so this, all of this, looking back, of course I can see it so clearly, right?
Right.
Um, but so that's a big, of course, and Lana helped me start this. She helped me start a child's life. And she said to me, we were doing a radio interview with someone, one day. I drug her with me,
Yeah.
and, we were standing out on the porch after the interview, and the interviewer was trying to get her to talk. She was just sitting there in the studio, and she was so beautiful that he wanted to get her to be part of the conversation. And but so and she and then she did start talking about, the rape and all of that. And but when we were leaving the studio, she said to me, "Mom, do you," and now I'm gonna cry. She said, "Mom, do you ever tell anybody my story?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry. It's your story." And she said, "I want you to start telling everybody." And she said, I don't want any little girl to ever be hurt like I've been." And so we started building, and this is what we built.
Mm.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I love, and love is such a small word for this, but I adore how you've taken this on yourself to reach these children in Chester County, and we're gonna share that vision to go to all of Pennsylvania and then the tri-state area, and we're just gonna keep growing this till we have the entire country, able to receive a free mental wellness for children to help them through situations that many people never even dreamed of. It's the worst nightmare coming to life.
It is.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing about your daughter. Um, I know my listeners will take something so valuable and so precious from you sharing. I thank you.
No, I thank you for letting me, a lot of people, I don't share this a lot because people are sometimes, they don't know what to say.
Yep.
Most times they don't know what to say. Um, but it's always, she was so brave
Yeah.
for so long, and it gives me an opportunity to share that and to share what that again, back to what an amazingly kind person that she was, that, her saying to me, "No, help other little girls."
Yeah.
You know, that's and so that's what we're doing, and little boys.
Well, Leslie, we're going to wrap up our conversation for today. Thank you for just sharing your heart. Thank you for championing this mission for the children of Chester County. You're speaking up for the least of these, and you truly are transforming the fabric of our society, one child at a time.
Thanks, Stormy. Thank you, thank you.
So we're just going to close out this again. Thank you. Have a great day.